Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. Just, tell us first and foremost how the process went. Were there any glitches? We heard you inside. Kgalema Motlanthe saying that there were 2 confiscated ballots. Apparently ANC delegates had taken pictures of these. What then happens to those 2 ANC members?
No, we started the process of voting quite late. As a result, I think, we had to process those 4,384 or 386 delegates in a very, congested pace. That meant that we then had to finish voting at around 12 midnight, and we had started at around 4 in the afternoon. The voters' rolls were also a bit of a challenge, because from the credentials adopted by the conference, you then compile the voters' roll per province, and then thereafter we started processing voters, going into the voting station per province until we finished all the provinces. Then we went into the voting delegates in the NEC and the voting delegates in the PEC and the leagues as well. So that was quite a very gruesome process, given the time that we had, that it was very, very limited. However, we upon finishing the voting process, we had to do the counting manually of those 4,386 ballot papers, per candidate, per position, up until we came to the results we announced. Regarding the 2 ballot papers that were confiscated, you will recall that we explained that at the voting station, especially inside the voting booth, we don't allow any cell phones there. And if you do come with a cell phone, we'll request you that you should switch off your cell phone. So there are 2 comrades who were caught taking pictures there.
What then happens to these 2 ANC members?
We have then to revoke their voting status in the conference. And then we had to confiscate and destroy those ballot papers, because we are very intolerant of ill discipline as the Electoral Committee of the ANC. Our rules are very strict in terms of defiant behavior, and we take action on the spot, like we promised that if anybody, acts in a manner inconsistent with the rules, we will not hesitate to take action. And then we did that, but we then want to urge comrades that when we go to vote for the additionals, they should abide by the rules and vote peacefully, so that we don't have these kinds of issues arising.
And we'll come to the issue of additionals later on. My colleague earlier on, Naledi Molewa, was actually speaking about this, issues of vote buying. Has there been anybody that came to the Electoral Committee that has said that, listen, this is what happened in terms of vote buying, here's the evidence?
No, not really. There was some WhatsApp message circulating, and we alerted the police to try and go to venues where it was alleged that some people were distributing money, but the police did not find anything. Sometimes those kinds of messages are just fake messages aimed at tarnishing images of others, and we therefore want to say to our comrades, let's stop decampaigning others, let's campaign positively and encourage unity in the conference and within the ANC.
Have there been any disputes to the top 7?
No, not at all. You could see that there was a resounding acceptance of the results. And once again, that serves to demonstrate that our processes are above board. Branches were very happy. They were ululating, they were singing. And there's nobody who has said, I don't accept these results. Even at conference itself, there was nobody who raised an objection, which means that those results, as announced, are now adopted officially by conference.
I know there were some concerns from some delegates in regards to the counting process. They had said that, previously in the history of the ANC, normally when the elections agency actually counts, those numbers or those votes, ANC delegates are within plenary, inside plenary, waiting for, the results to be announced. And this case, this time, that was not the case.
No, but I think that is nonsensical. There's never been a situation where we count votes in plenary. That is a figment.
No, I'm not saying in plenary. I'm just saying some delegates had preferred to actually stay here while the elections agency goes and counts votes. That's what I'm saying.
No, they had an option to go to plenary if they wish to do so. Nobody barred them from plenary. But what is the purpose of just waiting in plenary? It is absurd. It doesn't make sense at all. So the issue is that the results, the counting of the votes is done in front of observers who are nominated by provincial secretaries, and we have 2 per province and 2 per league, so that they can relieve each other as we count, because the long hours of counting are not tolerable to one individual.
So, okay, just take us through the process of the additionals. 80 NEC members will be elected. So how does it work now? Will delegates go inside plenary, vote for them, and then the results will be announced? Also, just give us the time frames, please.
Yes, we are going back now
inside
plenary, and we are going to again to call for nominations from the floor by provinces and by leagues, and any additional nominee who receives 25% of the votes at the floor of conference by those delegates that are there will then make it to the ballot. When now we have got 240 a list of nominees that have been approved by the ANC, and then the conference will then approve the entire list. From there, we'll translate that into a ballot and then use the voters' rolls that are already approved by the provinces and by conference to do the voting.
Do you anticipate any objections or any grievances from the group that took you to court, the NEC disputed list group? Specifically when it comes to additional.
What would be the basis for a dispute if you lost in court? It will be a futile exercise.
So you don't anticipate any?
No, it will be a very peaceful nomination process from our point of view. And we don't think that there will be too many people nominated, because the list is longer than 240. It's too accommodative in terms of even gender and youth issues, and also the national question in terms of race and demographics.
I'm going to ask this question again, just in terms of the announcement of those 200 additional members. What time can we expect that?
Well, if we go now into plenary and we do the nominations from the floor, we'll probably in an hour or so start voting. Which means somewhere tomorrow, midday, we could be then going back to plenary to announce the results, and maybe that's when the leadership will dissolve the conference. Okay.
Just last question from me. It's not only an elective conference of the ANC. This is where policies of the ANC need to be, deliberated upon.
Yes.
Are you not worried as elections committee that so much time was spent electing various candidates instead of actually discussing, policy positions of the party that essentially will actually, move South Africa forward? And that's the thing. I mean, so many people raising their dissatisfaction over this process, because you find that ANC delegates are so preoccupied with electing and nominating, their preferred candidates, whereas the policies of the party are seemingly pushed aside.
No, I think when we were conducting the voting, there were commissions that were in session, and some commissions went into midnight discussing policy issues. So comrades here are exercising...
but not everybody was in attendance. Remember, both processes are running at the same time.
Yes, but you see...
But you find that more people are actually there voting in queues and not actually discussing policies in commissions.
No, of course.
Because both processes ran at the same time.
Yes, those that were not at the voting booth because their voters' roll were not ready were in commissions. When their voters roll, others would have already voted, which means that there was a staggering process of going into commissions where people alternate to give each other space. But you had to nest both processes because they are fundamental. You can't have the ANC finishing conference without electing leadership. That will be tantamount to disaster.
Okay. Chief Matsela, thank you so much for your time. Naledi, there you have it, the Secretary of the Electoral Commission, Chief Matsela, just also telling us about that process of nominating the additionals, those 80 NEC members of the ANC.